It often feels as if everyone's first stop on their trip to Japan is Asakusa, and I can understand the reason. It leaves a lasting impression for Western tourists surrounding the colossal Sensoji Temple, the scenic Sumida River, and the various storefronts. But would it be a good place to live? Thanks to my semi-retired life in Japan, I've briefly lived in or near Asakusa twice over the years. As the second episode in my neighborhood ranking series, let's explore the neighborhood to determine the pros and cons of living in such a massive tourist hotspot. Would you want to select it as your home base for a viral half-life or even just a long-term visit? Is it actually as hectic as first impressions might imply? Or is there some peace and quiet to be found beyond the biggest temple in Tokyo? And stick to the end to find out how you can help decide the next neighborhood to be reviewed. The full details of the grading system can be found in my previous Nishi Shinjuku video, but as a quick reminder, there are 4 categories: public transportation, neighborhood character, livability, and English friendliness. Each category will be discussed and given a score from 1 to 5, then based on the final score, it will be placed in the ongoing tier list. Alright, now let's start shouldering our way through the crowds to review Asakusa. Asakusa is in the northeastern part of central Tokyo. Most visitors remain in the southern part, around Sensoji and the various shopping streets, but the district actually extends north for numerous blocks into an area known as Oku Asakusa. Before this video, I was under the impression it extended more south as well, but what I thought was more Asakusa is actually the Kaminarimon, Komugata, and even Kuromai districts. I'll touch on some aspects of those neighborhoods as well, since they are so close and I would argue they are an integral part to the experience, but we'll mostly focus on Asakusa itself. In terms of train stations, the main hub is Asakusa Station. It serves 4 different train lines, but not in the most intuitive fashion. The Ginza line is very convenient for getting across central Tokyo, and Asakusa acts as the start of the line. There are many highly popular stops along the line as it makes its way to Shibuya. I do find the train cars themselves to be too small, but if you are trying to get to the western side of central Tokyo, then this is your best option. The Asakusa line offers some very useful routes, mainly as an in-between for the Keikyu and Keisei lines. It offers direct access to both Haneda and Narita airports. It also features stops at Oshiage Station for the Tokyo Skytree and Shinagawa Station for convenient Shinkansen access, not to mention all of the other stops along the way within Chiba and southern Tokyo. Next up are the Tobu lines. They start at Asakusa and head north, with a quick stop at the Skytree as well. Their big claim to fame are the limited express trains used to reach Nikko, so if you would like a fun train experience, then they have that for sure. Finally, we have the Tsukuba Express. This one is clearly a different station with the same name since it is a 10-minute walk west from the rest of the train lines. You often see them advertise a direct connection to Akihabara, but I find it easier to use the Ginza line for that. However, it also offers access to Ibaraki in the northeast. My main issue with this station is that the train lines and gates are all relatively far from each other. It's a minor issue, but I am pretty sure that to transfer between any 2 lines, you need to leave the station and get above ground to then find another entrance. This is a bit tedious and makes it feel less like one station and more like 4 stations all within a couple blocks of each other, which makes navigating it feel confusing at first. That covers all of the train lines within Asakusa, but you may have noticed something missing if you are familiar with trains in Japan. There is no JR stop in this neighborhood, which is not a deal breaker, but something to be aware of if most of the areas you visit utilize JR lines. I often found myself walking down to Asakusa Bashi Station for the JR Sobu line. One final note for this section is that Asakusa is famous for their water buses and cruises. I wouldn't say they are typical forms of public transportation. They would get pricey if used daily, but it is a fun way to reach Toyosu or Odaiba once in a while. With all of that said, I think Asakusa has a lot to offer in terms of public transportation. I see the Ginza line as the workhorse that I'd use most frequently, and the Asakusa line as a utility with specialized use cases. The other lines are more like novelties to me, but I am sure there are adventures to be found along their northern routes that I have not yet discovered. My main issue with the station is the odd layout and a lack of interconnectivity between the lines, but that is likely something you would need to get used to. The lack of JR access is a disappointment to me as well. Overall, it doesn't have as much to offer as something like Shinjuku or Tokyo stations, but this is still an above average public transit experience, which makes it sound like a 4 to me. Asakusa has a very unique charm, but there is still a side to it that many tourists miss. There are big buildings, of course, this is still Tokyo after all, but everything seems a bit smaller than most of central Tokyo. The defining feature of Asakusa is obviously Sensoji Temple and the surrounding shopping streets. Many would likely call it overrated these days, but I think that has more to do with the crowds than the actual buildings and layout. If you visit in the early mornings or late at night to avoid the crowds, then it becomes a truly wonderful experience. Nobody can deny it is a huge aspect of the neighborhood's character, and the shops nearby are fun to explore. The massive Sumida River running up through Tokyo provides a very peaceful break from all of the urban structures. There are numerous bridges running across it, and the Asakusa riverfront features a nature grove with sakura trees. This river adds a nice opportunity to relax with nature. Additionally, the other side of the river has bold architecture on display in the form of the Sky Tree and the Asahi Beer Building. It provides some eye-catching scenery, and the Sky Tree itself is so large that it looms in the distance wherever you are in Asakusa. But those are just the popular tourist areas. North of Sensoji is a massive residential area. Even walking 2 blocks from the temple, you will go from shoulder-to-shoulder crowds to totally empty streets. It is a shocking and sudden change of pace that most people would miss unless you are local, and I enjoy the option. Just be sure not to accidentally wander into a red light district, but I guess that technically adds to the variety as well. I can understand some might want to dock a point due to the crowds, as they do certainly hamper the experience near the temple, but knowing that you can easily escape them by just walking 5 minutes north adds a fun insider knowledge spin to things that balances out the inconvenience in my mind. It adds an interesting contrast within the district. In summary, Asakusa basically offers 4 distinct biomes, so to speak. The temple, the shopping streets, the riverside, and the residential streets. All very close to each other and easy to access if you get overwhelmed or bored. The Sky Tree's looming presence adds even more character to the neighborhood that makes it feel very unique. I don't think anyone would disagree with a 5 for neighborhood character. If you have ever visited for a short time, Asakusa seems like a tourist trap, and you may wonder how anyone would want to live near something like that. The reality, as mentioned above, is that you can quickly escape the madness of Sensoji by heading to the surrounding areas, and it basically feels like an entirely new city, so the noise and crowds can be easily avoided. The shopping streets around the temple offer a large variety of restaurants and gift shops that are a lot of fun to explore, but they are a little overpriced at times, especially the ones found in the main Nakamise shopping street. One special callout is the famous Benezuru Pancake Cafe, notorious for needing a very early morning same-day reservation. Living here, it is easy to make a reservation if you want to try it, but honestly I do think it is a little bit overhyped. Maybe worth one visit if you have the time. My preferred grocery store in this region is Seiyu, and it is conveniently located beneath the Asakusa Rock shopping complex near Don Quixote. Between those two and all of the other stores, I was able to find basically everything I needed for a short-term stay, but it is lacking any kind of electronics store, so you'd need to travel to Ueno or Akihabara for media or entertainment purchases that you maybe want for a midterm or long-term residence. You'll find convenience stores and some My Basket markets scattered throughout as well if you need something quickly. A very unexpected addition is the small Asakusa Hanayashiki amusement park. I've not visited, and I get the impression it is mostly targeted at children, but it still adds to the variety. Fun fact, it was founded in 1853, which makes it Japan's oldest amusement park. Entertainment-wise, it is all centered on Sensoji. Walking around the temple and shops is fun by itself, but you can also get a nice view of it from the tourism center across from the main gates. There is an arcade near Asakusa Rocks, and Sumida River is not only a scenic place to relax, but is one of the most common jogging courses in the city. There are a surprising number of small bars and jazz clubs located in the back streets as well if you're into that sort of thing. You may notice dinner boats floating down the river late in the day. Those are very fun, but when I did it, the ride started much further south down near Toyosu, so I don't know if I can really accredit it to Asakusa beyond the boats acting as additional scenery for us to enjoy. One extra bonus, even though it is down in Komagata, is the Bandai headquarters. Just a short walk south and you can enjoy a quick photo shoot with various famous Japanese characters such as Agumon, Godzilla, and Goku. So in terms of shopping and entertainment, you would be totally covered. The question mostly becomes, where would you live? There are plenty of residential properties surrounding Sensoji. I was using Airbnb at the time and paid about $1,500 a month, but I've noticed some monthly mansion companies have started to operate nearby as well. It tends to be a slightly cheaper area within central Tokyo, so you'd likely save some money on rent compared to living somewhere like Shinjuku, but obviously it is still pricier than living further outside the central wards. I enjoyed walking around the quiet streets in the north, and it was always fun turning a corner to find a small park or playground. It feels safe, as to be expected in Tokyo, and just gives off a very peaceful vibe that is hard to find in the city. A lot of the entertainment is of course targeted at tourists, but that doesn't mean residents can't take advantage of it as well. I enjoyed my time here and found it very livable, if maybe a bit disconnected from the rest of the city. That disconnection did make it a bit inconvenient at times, but overall it was a tranquil living experience in Asakusa. I think it deserves a 4. As mentioned before, this area is a major tourist hotspot, and the local businesses have adapted to that. It is very common to see guides in the train station to help people find their way, and most nearby shops are used to dealing with foreigners. The rickshaw operators deserve a special shout out because their English level has improved drastically over the last few years in my opinion, even though I have still never paid for a rickshaw ride. Every restaurant I have visited has an English menu, and honestly, there is just a good chance there are more people in the temple area that speak English than Japanese on a daily basis. So anything in the Sensoji and the Asakusa Rocks area will be easy to manage if you don't know Japanese, but you might have a bit more of a challenge to the north. The smaller businesses and the side streets are run by locals and are not used to tourists, so don't just assume English ability if you head a few blocks above the temple. With so many tourists, it is no surprise that Asakusa is very forgiving to English speakers. You have the option to challenge yourself as well, but if you struggle with Japanese, then you are in good hands within Asakusa. It gets a 5 for English friendliness, but do keep working on your Japanese. The final ranking for Asakusa is 18 out of 20, which is a very similar score to Nishi Shinjuku despite being a very different kind of neighborhood. I think it offers a lot of variety to residents. You can endure the crowded streets near Sensoji or enjoy a peaceful walk through the side streets to the north or along the riverside. The costs will be lower if you don't shop amongst the tourist traps, and you have access to a very spiritual place in the form of Sensoji, which is one of the coolest temples in the country. It may be the face of Tokyo tourism, but Asakusa is still a very livable district, well deserved of the A rank. The ability to quickly escape the noise makes it a very peaceful option within Tokyo, and many people trying to enjoy a fiery retirement might prefer living in an area that offers such distinct contrasting experiences right next to each other. Please subscribe to find out the ranking for the next Tokyo neighborhood I cover. Thanks for watching the second video in this series. A lot of people seem to enjoy the first one, and since I was busy with Golden Week, I decided to make the Asakusa videos since I was already planning to visit. Again, I won't be doing a neighborhood review every week, but I would like to hear which one you'd like to see next. I am opting to do something a bit fun where I will track the suggestions and how many times they are commented, then I'll add it to a wheel, weighted according to how many times it is suggested, and let that decide the next neighborhood. So let's spin the wheel. It seems the next video will be Nakano. Better luck next time, Futaku Tamagawa. So please comment on this video about what you want to see after Nakano. Feel free to suggest areas outside of Tokyo, but I currently don't have the resources to go too far at the moment since I'm having trouble monetizing the channel. Once that gets resolved, hopefully I can do a monthly neighborhood video outside of Tokyo. I have plenty of other video ideas, and hopefully I can figure out my account management trouble soon so we can explore some other interesting topics. Thanks again, and see you next time.